What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. I'm the Viking, and today is my review, non-spoilers and spoilers, for Ghostbusters Afterlife, which is a sequel to the original two in the franchise, directed by Ivan Reitman, and is not canon at all to the 2016 version, the disaster one with all the women that didn't do that well and hardcore fans really hated. So that's in an Elseworld multiverse type story, and it's not connected to these three films in the franchise. But Ghostbusters Afterlife is directed by Ivan Reitman's son, Jason Reitman, and the Ghostbusters franchise very much seems like a legacy for the Reitman family. And I bet you there was a lot of pressure on Jason Reitman to deliver here, not only to make up for the 2016 disaster, but also to pay respect, homage to the original cast, crew, and director, and fans of the original two Ghostbusters movie. And I think he did a pretty good job. Now, I'm not a huge Ghostbusters fan. I've seen the three previous movies, and even I knew the 2016 version was hugely disrespectful. Even though Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, and Ernie Hudson all showed up for just random cameos in that movie, it just seemed bad taste for everybody. And like, those three legends didn't want to be there, and the fans walked out just absolutely pissed off. So 5 years later, we have Ghostbusters Afterlife. I think Jason Reitman did a terrific job. I really, really do. There's some problems with the script, the pacing, the dialogue, some of the jokes, but overall, I think he gets the important things right, which is to please the fans. Great third act, great cameos, post-credit scenes are brilliant, homage, Easter eggs, it does those things beautifully. And it's not Jason Reitman trying to copy what his dad did. They're two very different directors. Just go watch Ivan's movies and Jason's movies. They're not that similar whatsoever. And Jason Reitman actually said when he was directing Ghostbusters Afterlife, his dad was sat beside him in the producer's chair looking at every single shot, every single scene. And that surprises me as well, because then I would think that, oh, Ivan Reitman just ghost directed this movie, but it's very much in Jason Reitman's tone, in his vision. And he does a great job at pleasing the older fans and being respectful to the lore, but also doing something very different and very new, and doing it in a very good way. Because the first and second act of Ghostbusters Afterlife, it's a Ghostbusters movie, but it's completely different from the original movies. And it's only until the third act where a lot of the homages come into it, a lot of the fan service come into it, and then it feels like the original two, which I think is fine. And a lot of the critics are saying that this is just a fan service movie. What's wrong with that? Fans walked in 2016 and hated that movie because it was everything that Ghostbusters is not. And it was disrespectful to the fans, to Ivan Reitman, to the actors, just to everybody. And there's nothing wrong with fans going to watch Ghostbusters Afterlife and getting exactly what they wanted, because they've had to wait 30 years to see a sequel to Ghostbusters 2. I know there was some drama between Harold Ramis and Bill Murray and stuff like that, and that's why it didn't happen. And it's a shame that Ghostbusters 3 didn't happen when the four of these guys were alive, they were healthy, and they were ready to go. But I think Ghostbusters Afterlife does a terrific job at showing everybody in good light. And I think Jason Reitman deserves a lot of praise for this. And opening weekend, they made a lot of money, so hopefully that continues over Thanksgiving and internationally, because I would love to see more from this universe that Jason Reitman has set up. And I think there's huge potential. But the main plot for this, when a single mom and her two kids arrive in a small town, they begin their connection to the original Ghostbusters and the secret legacy their grandfather left behind. So, look, in real life, as you may know, Harold Ramis has passed away. He played Egon. And it's a shame that he never got to be in a third Ghostbusters movie. And this film, his presence is throughout this entire movie, even though he's not alive in real life. And that's a shame. But it feels like a tribute to Egon, to Harold Ramis. And it's done in such a beautiful way. And that third act, I was even getting emotional, even though I'm not a huge Ghostbusters fan, just the way it was done. And what they did throughout this movie, especially in the third act, makes you look at the Disney Star Wars sequels and makes you think, I can't believe that they didn't do this when they had all of the cast members alive at the time Force Awakens was made. And it makes you look at Rise of Skywalker, The Last Jedi, and Force Awakens, and makes you think, wow, you really messed up big time. But Jason Reitman doesn't do that here. He does it in such a beautiful, respectful way that it's just hard to not like. It puts you out of it. You'll see it when you see it. But I think the way it was done was just fantastic and really made me kind of cry and get emotional as well. But yes, of course, he's not alive in real life, Harold Ramis, but he's not alive in this movie either. His character is, not around. So we follow his daughter and his grandchildren who have been evicted from their home, and they have to go and live in their grandfather's old house when they had no contact with him ever, and even, their mother never had contact with her father whatsoever, and she has this resentment and hatred towards her father Egon because he was never there for her whatsoever. But she has no choice right now to go to the town that he lived in and to live in his house because she has no money and she's got no home for her children at all. So we're basically in this small town, and in terms of the scale of this movie, it's pretty small because you're in a random town. There's not that many people around. It's not like it's a big city or anything like the first two movies in New York. It's not that at all. It's not until the third act this movie gets huge and you actually learn what the plot is and that you're thinking, wow, this is actually pretty big in the grand scheme of things. We follow the character of Phoebe, played by McKenna Grace, who is the granddaughter of Egon. Also her brother Trevor, played by Finn Wolfhard, who's in the Stranger Things franchise. And actually this movie feels like Stranger Things as well. Stranger Things has all these kind of tributes and references towards the older style of Hollywood and horror movies, just the big blockbusters. Ghostbusters Afterlife does this as well. There's a few movies that are Easter egged as well, brilliantly. There's one in particular of a TV show that's currently happening, of a franchise that's been going on for 30 years. I reviewed on the channel, don't want to spoil it, but I love that. It made me really happy to see that as well. But yeah, they're in this town, and Phoebe, played by McKenna Grace, who is fantastic. She carries this movie, to be honest. It's her movie. She's in most of the scenes, and she's given a lot to do. And she discovers that her grandfather was up to something more out in this old house in the middle of nowhere. There was a reason he was here. There was a reason he has all this cool equipment and technology. And she slowly realizes that her grandfather was actually a Ghostbuster. And the events of Ghostbuster 1 and Ghostbusters 2 happened, but it's kind of like a myth in a way. There's some references towards it in the real world. People know of the occurrence that happened in New York, but some people don't really pay attention to it and stuff like that. But she realizes what her grandfather Egon really was. And she's given a lot to do, and she comes across this guy called Podcast. That's his name, Podcast, because he runs a podcast. And look, the actor who played him, he wasn't given a lot to do, but I thought he was terrific for what he was given. And Finn Wolfhard wasn't given that much either, to be honest, but he had kind of a love interest with the character Lucky. They work at this diner. So basically, the only real characters that are given much to do is McKenna Grace's character Phoebe. And she drives this movie hugely. She's the one that discovers what the Ghostbusters are. She makes the contact with the original Ghostbusters, which was a pretty cool scene as well. And you get to realize what happened to the Ghostbusters, why they're not around anymore, why they broke up in the last 30 years, which I found was pretty interesting as well. Paul Rudd's also in this movie. He plays a summer school teacher and a seismologist. He's fantastic. He really, really is. And he's actually got a great relationship with Phoebe and Trevor's mother, who is Egon's daughter, who was played by Carrie Coon. And I really like Carrie Coon in this movie. She was terrific. Her one-liners, the way she delivered her lines, just how she carried herself in the movie. She was terrific. I really liked her. And then when her and Paul Rudd are on camera together, when they have all these scenes together, because there's kind of a love interest going on there, it's just terrific to watch the two of them. They're fantastic. They really, really are. And Paul Rudd is just fantastic in absolutely anything. He's such a likable guy. He's given a lot to do in the first and second act, but in the third act he kind of goes missing for a while, which was, you do miss him because Paul Rudd's such a great actor. He's such a great screen presence. So I would have had him more in the third act of the movie, but he was terrific for everything that he was in. But of course, look, the original guys are doing promotional interviews for Ghostbusters Afterlife right now, which pretty much gives away that Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd and Ernie Hudson are in this movie. And they are in this movie. I won't say where they show up or when it happens. It's beautifully done. It's fantastic. I loved it. It's like the Avengers Endgame moment with all the heroes coming together. It's pretty cool. It really, really is. Now, look, I would have had them in more of the movie as well, maybe throughout it. Interact with more of the characters, maybe have more screen time, more lines and stuff like that. But I can understand that Jason Reitman wanted to deliver the next generation of Ghostbusters as well and not be dependent on the original two movies. In a way, I understand that. But if they make future sequels of Ghostbusters Afterlife, I want to see them pop up in more of the movie. I want them to be mentors to the next generation of Ghostbusters. I really, really do. And there's huge surprises and cameos in this movie. The marketing for Ghostbusters Afterlife, I think, is pretty good for a movie, but it gives absolutely nothing away in terms of what the movie is, especially the third act. And I was looking at a character, I was like, is that a certain actor? Is that person? And then it is them. I'm like, wow, I was not expecting to see them in it. And look, as I said, it's more of a sequel to the first Ghostbusters movie. So some of the villains, some of the demons and stuff of the first movie do pop up in this one. And again, that can be seen as just complete fan service. And in a way, it maybe could have been done better, but I don't think it was done badly or anything like that. I think it was just giving fans what they want and keeping it simple for this movie. Because to be honest, this movie had to keep it simple. It had to do the right things right. Because if they want to make more, if they want to bring the fans back on side, you need to have a hit in your hand. You need to make this one a really good movie and be respectful, as I said, to the original crew, actors, director, which it 100% definitely is. I think a lot of kids will like this movie, especially because of the performance of McKenna Grace as Phoebe, Egon's granddaughter. Because you go on this journey with this character, she discovers what her grandfather was, what the Ghostbusters were, why her grandfather isolated himself for 30 years without his family, without his friends, leaving behind his daughter, his grandchildren. And she discovers this, and now she knows she has to bring that legacy on. And it's fantastic. She is just great. She's into science. She's nerdy. Little subtle things remind you of Harold Ramis's performance as Egon. And she's a great actress. She's going to be fantastic. This little girl will win Oscars. She is that good. She's got a great screen presence. She goes toe to toe with Paul Rudd in terms of comedy. Not many can do that whatsoever. So that's fantastic. It really, really is. But overall, I thought Ghostbusters Afterlife was a fun, enjoyable film. It's not fantastic. It's not 10 out of 10 or anything. It's not the best of the year. But it's just a sweet movie that pays respect to Ivan Reitman's two movies, the cast, the crew, everyone involved, and most importantly, the fans. The fans are so crucial to the Ghostbusters franchise. They didn't like the 2016 version. I can see them liking this one so much. And the critics who are hating on this movie because it's fan service, get over yourself. It's not fan service done in a bad way. This is done beautifully, and even for someone who's not a huge Ghostbusters fan, I can appreciate what Jason Reitman was doing 100%. And I think for him to carry forward the Ghostbusters franchise, he's the most perfect person to do it, because I could see in Act 1 and Act 2 that he has some very interesting ideas to bring the franchise forward, but he had to go back and pay tribute and have those Easter eggs and homages to the original ones, because you want to please the fans. You want to give the fans what they want, because they've wanted a Ghostbusters 3 ever since the late 1980s, and they never ever got it at all. So here they get that in some way. So it's a shame that Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, Ernie Hudson, and Harold Ramis, who passed away, they're all old men who can't really do it anymore. And it is sad to see them be the age that they're at. It's great to see them alive, of course, but it's just a shame we never got a proper Ghostbusters 3. But this one right here is a great entry. It's fantastic. And when the old crew come back into it, you get a smile on your face. The third act is so emotional, 100%. And yeah, even I was in tears. I really was. Okay guys, for the last few minutes of this review, I want to talk about spoilers. If you haven't seen the film, click out, then come back to it when you have seen it, okay? Thank you. But my main criticism is the third act of this movie. Not the big thing, I really like that, which I'll talk about, but in terms of the 1994 version, you've got the Ghostbusters trying to defeat Gozer. The 2021 version, you've got the Ghostbusters, the new generation, and the old generation trying to defeat Gozer. And you've also got Zool, the kind of demon dog there, and the other demon dog as well. And Carrie Coon and Paul Rudd are demon dogs in the third act. Are they even called demon dogs? I'm not too sure. But those big demon things look like dogs. Basically, that's what they are for the third act. And I would have had them in the third act physically, but okay, forget about it. But in both third acts, you've got the Ghostbusters trying to defeat the same villain. And it basically plays out the exact same way. And Gozer doesn't really do anything that intimidating to stop them. She doesn't even seem that powerful, or it's a he, she, I don't know. I think it's Olivia Wilde as well that's playing Gozer, which is pretty cool cameo. But she had nothing to do. She basically did nothing for the third act. And also J.K. Simmons showed up as well for like 2 seconds, and then he's killed off. So I would have liked more backstory to those characters, more development, a little bit more screen time. And this is a 2 hour and 4 or 5 minute movie. And he could have just had a few more minutes for them to have some scenes, add some depth to their characters. What's her master plan? Give her a monologue. I know it's cliche, but come on, it's fan service. Just do something different with it. And I would have liked that big time. But yeah, that's kind of my most criticism. That's not even me hating on the movie. I just would have liked something different. Do something cool. And the Ghostbusters are even kind of knocked down in the same way. The original crew were knocked down in the same way. But yeah, just that's a criticism I have of the third act. It's just too similar to the 1984 version. I didn't switch it up. Just give them something more to do. J.K. Simmons, terrific actor. Olivia Wilde, let them do something more. That's just my main criticism of the third act. But getting into the most controversial moment of the film, and the one that many critics are hating on, is the big Harold Ramis reveal. Now, I thought they would do this, but I didn't know how they would do it, because throughout the movie, he's there in kind of ghost form. His presence is there. He plays chess with McKenna Grace's character Phoebe. You know, he interacts with his daughter, Carrie Coon's character. So he was there, but he never popped up in kind of a physical ghost form until the third act of this movie. And the big moment between Gozer and between Phoebe, you know, who has the blaster, and then Gozer's using her power, you know, trying to defeat this little girl. Harold Ramis shows up to help his granddaughter. And it actually reminded me of Harry Potter v Voldemort, when their wands are coming together, the powers coming together. It's like Voldemort's about to beat Harry, but then all of the ghosts, all the people that Voldemort has killed, you know, his Harry Potter's parents, Robin Pattinson's character shows up, Gary Oldman's character show up, to all give Harry the power he needs to defeat Voldemort. And here, it's Harold Ramis's character, it's Egon, who shows up to help his granddaughter, to give her that extra boost, to hold the blaster, you know, still, and defeat Gozer. So that was terrifically done. Fantastic. I loved it so much. And that's where the emotions started to come. That's where people started to get very emotional and also very critical, because they didn't like it whatsoever. And then you have the original Ghostbusters, Bill Murray, Ernie Hudson, Dan Aykroyd, looking at the ghost of, you know, Harold Ramis. And yeah, of course, it looks a bit weird. Maybe it's a little bit out of taste for some people, but I thought for this movie, for what it was trying to do, it was perfectly done, and I really liked it, and it was very emotional to me. It really was. The only thing is, it was a little bit weird because they kept the camera on Harold Ramis's Egon, his ghost, for a long time, and he never said anything once. That was a little bit weird. You know, he's just kind of nodding, or he's just smiling, or he's just looking, but he never speaks. I don't know, in the Ghostbusters lore, can ghosts speak? Can they talk normally? I'm not too sure. Maybe they can. I don't know. But yeah, just a little bit weird because the camera was on him for so long. But look, they want to give the fans what they want, and this was a film for Harold Ramis. It was a tribute towards him, and I think that was just beautiful and terrific, and hugely respectful. It really was. I think fans really like it. I think the Rotten Tomatoes score for this movie is pretty high because fans like it, but critics don't, and they think it's too much fan service. I think this is what fans exactly wanted, and to see Harold Ramis's ghost, you know, in this movie show up was pretty touching and very heavy. And something that a lot of people probably weren't expecting either. And then that one last moment between him and the original Ghostbusters was just fantastic. It really, really was. And to see the original Ghostbusters and Harold Ramis's Egon interact for one last time was just beautifully done. Especially since Bill Murray and him had some, you know, beef in real life. You know, maybe that was a way just to clean up everything in terms of that. But yeah, I liked it. I really, really did. And it was a powerful scene and fantastic. And then he interacts with his grandchildren, you know, Trevor, Finn Wolfhard, Phoebe, McKenna Grace's character, and also his daughter, played by Carrie Coon. So, you know, I thought it was pretty touching. It was pretty well done. And Ghostbusters Afterlife, for me, yes, it was fan service. Yes, there was Easter eggs, homage, but it was done in a very, very good way, because Jason Reitman didn't make a replica of Ghostbusters 1 or 2. He did his own thing for a majority of this movie until about the third act, where you would probably expect most of the fan service to come with the original Ghostbusters returning. You know, I liked the movie, I really did. I just would have had the original crew in the film more. There's some other cameos as well. I think the secretary shows up as well, played by Annie Potts, who is Janie. She popped up. Actually, let's talk about the post-credit scene. The first one, of course, just plays directly after the movie between Bill Murray and Sigourney Weaver's character, who I actually expected to show up in the actual movie, and she never did at all. I thought she would have actually a bigger part in this film, but she didn't. And she looks great as well, actually, for her age. She looks fantastic, absolutely. But it was just a quick kind of comedic scene between Bill Murray and her, which was just great to see. It kind of calls back to the original movie where the two of them were kind of, I don't know, it's kind of like, is it therapy cards or if it's fortune teller cards or whatever it is. I'm not too sure. I don't know what it is, but it was just fantastically done. It was great to see those two characters back on screen together. And if they make a sequel, bring her back for more. Why not? Bring back all of these actors for more. I think they can be great mentors. It would be great to tie the connections with the original two movies, with Ivan Reitman's movies, and also this new generation of Ghostbusters. But the second post-credit scene, which you have to wait until the very last bit of the credits, I stayed there, everyone else left. I was like, haha, suckers, I'm getting to see this. You don't. Was of course, Ernie Hudson's character and Winston. So he's having a meeting with Annie Potts, who was the secretary from the original movies. And she's in this movie. She's actually got more screen time maybe than the original guy. Well, maybe not more, but she gets a lot, to be fair. So that was pretty cool to see her as well, because some of the other actors wouldn't return and stuff like that. But anyway, yeah, so they're having a meeting, and, you know, Ernie Hudson gives this big speech about, you know, he was a Ghostbusters, he needed money, he got a job, and he made something of himself after that, because he's a big business guy in this movie, and he's rich and stuff like that. And he actually purchases the old fire station that they used to use, and it looks like he is going to be the mentor or the leader of the next Ghostbusters generation, which is fantastic. And he even gets the Ghostbusters car back, which actually throughout the movie was so cool to see, like nostalgic feeling for somebody who's not a huge fan. It was cool to see it, and the scene, of course, in the town where they're chasing down a ghost, ghost. You know, the three kids, podcast, Finn Wolfhard's character, and McKenna Grace's character. That was really well done. That was fantastic. It just took a while to get to that. It took like an hour for them to actually have their first ghost. But anyway, that was pretty cool. But it looks like he's going to be kind of mentoring the next generation of Ghostbusters. And you can have Bill Murray show up again, Dan Aykroyd. It's just great to see them again. It really is fantastic. But his speech, his line delivery was fantastic. I don't remember it word for word, but it's just about getting a job, becoming a Ghostbuster, what it means, your teamwork and stuff like that. And then he purchased the fire station as well. So that's fantastic. And actually, there was some dialogue dropped in that as well, because he's actually helping out Bill Murray's character and Dan Aykroyd's character, but they don't know about it, I don't think, paying rent and stuff like that, or something like that. But that was pretty sweet as well. And even though they weren't in contact for like 30 years, the original Ghostbusters, you know, he was helping them out. So that was fantastic. So I love that scene. It gave me hope for future movies, and I would love to see it definitely. And I think there's huge potential with what Jason Reitman set up, because he's paying respect to the older movies, but he's also doing his own thing. And I think for Ghostbusters Afterlife 2, whatever the title would be, you can take a little bit more risk, because it's all about getting this one right, which I think he is. And the budget was like 70 million, and they've made 40 million opening weekend. Hopefully it makes more money, and they want to do more. I think there's huge potential. You could do series, you could do spin-off movies. I think there's huge potential with this franchise, definitely. And the groundwork was laid by his father, Ivan Reitman, and the original guys. So now he can take a little bit more risk. It was just about getting this one right. He can take more risk now. He can bring back these kids, Finn Wolfhard, Podcast, you know, Lucky, Phoebe, bring them all back. Paul Rudd as well, because he was just fantastic. Bring them back, and you can add more depth to those characters, because I think Trevor, Finn Wolfhard, and Podcast and Lucky didn't get that much deepness to their characters or have much to do, and you could do more in the next few movies with them. But definitely you have to bring back McKenna Grace's character. She was fantastic as Phoebe, Egon's granddaughter. She's the heart of this franchise right now. She's the one who can carry it forward. I think a lot of children, a lot of people will really like how she depicted this character, because it could have been wrong, it could have messed up, but no, she just absolutely nailed it. But guys, that's my review, my thoughts, my discussions for Ghostbusters Afterlife, my non-spoilers, my spoilers, the post-credit scene, what I liked, what I didn't like, what I think this means for the future of the franchise. But did you like the movie Ghostbusters Afterlife? Maybe you didn't. Let me know below. I'm very, very interested. Guys, thanks for watching my review, my discussion, my thoughts on Ghostbusters Afterlife. I really appreciate that. And subscribe to the channel if you like this type of video. I've got more on the channel, more to come, more reviews, more news, everything for you guys, because I love movies. I love talking about movies with you guys. Thanks for watching, really appreciate it, and I'll see you in the next video. And the legacy of Ghostbusters, I think, is in very good hands with Jason Reitman, and that's terrific for all involved, especially if you're a huge fan or a new fan like me.